Hi everyone, this is the third epistle of Yohanan, John. 3 John only has one chapter, which I'm going to work through now. I'm one of the 5 youth ministers of Amightywind. To the beloved Gaius, who I love in truth. It's interesting that Yohanan always starts with this, that he loves in truth. He loves in truth. Because truth refers to the Torah. So he loves in the Torah. He loves according to the Torah. Because love and the Torah goes hand in hand. That's why. As we read in 1 John 5 verse 3, 2 John 1 verse 6, that the love's definition is the Torah. To obey the Torah. So to say that he loves in truth is like saying, I love because of the Torah in my heart. That's why I love. Verse 2, Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers. For I rejoiced greatly when brethren came and testified of the truth that is in you, just as you walked in the truth. Again, he's hammering on this one word, the truth, truth. The truth that is in you, you walk in the truth, I love in truth. And as I said, definition of truth, according to Psalm 119 verse 142 and 151, is to keep the commandments, to obey the Torah. That's the definition of truth. So you can actually replace this word truth with the Torah. And if you do that, it will read, To the beloved Gaius, who I love in the Torah. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers. For I rejoiced greatly when brethren came and testified of the Torah that is in you, just as you walk in the Torah. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in the Torah. Beloved, you do faithfully whatever you do for the brethren and for strangers. You see that first 4 verses. It's amazing when you put that word Torah in there. The commandments, the instructions, which must be written on your heart through faith in Messiah. And when you put it in, it is so clear what he is talking about here. And as I proved already, that the truth's definition in Scripture is the Torah. Instructions. So it is correct to place that word in there. Okay, verse 5. Beloved, you do faithfully whatever you do for the brethren and for strangers, who have borne witness of your love before the congregation. They will use the word church for interest's sake. The word church is derived from the word circe, C-I-R-C-E. I'm referring to circus. That's where you get the word circus from. And it's also a name of a false deity, Cirque. But anyway, if you use the scriptures, this is scriptures, they use the word congregation there. If you send them forward on their journey in a manner worthy of YAHUSHUA, you will do well, because they went forth for his name's sake, taking nothing from the Gentiles. You see, these people did everything for his name's sake. And they also died for his name's sake, because they proclaimed his name. I did a video on his name. I can't remember the name of the video. But it was about, in YAHUSHUA's days, the importance of the Father's name, and that many people died because they proclaimed the name. And as I believe, even YAHUSHUA died because he proclaimed the name. And Stephen was stoned because he proclaimed the name. And Shaul, Yahuwah said, I will reveal to him how much he will suffer for my name's sake, for proclaiming my name. And as I explained in those videos, in Acts you can see all over the place where they talk about the Father's name, and that that was the reason why Shaul persecuted the saints, because they proclaimed the name. The name of the Father, of course, which is Yahuwah. who have borne witness of your love before the congregation. If you send them forward on their journey in the manner worthy of Yahuwah, you will do well, because they went forth for his name's sake, taking nothing from the Gentiles. We therefore ought to receive such that we may become fellow workers for the truth, for the Torah, so that we can become fellow workers for the Torah. These people built their lives on the Torah. That's the solid foundation YAHUSHUA was referring to. The Torah, the Heavenly Father's instructions. That is solid. That will never change. That's what he said in Matthew 5 verse 18. Heaven and earth will pass away before anything in the Torah will pass away. That is the solid foundation on which you can build your life, according to which you can determine who is the false prophets and the false teachers. You compare their messages to the Torah. And if they preach lawlessness, they're the false teachers. If they prophesy but they preach lawlessness, then they're false prophets. Doesn't matter if the things they say come to pass. Because even in the Torah, Yahuwah says that it doesn't matter if a prophet prophesies and it comes to pass. If he says anything against my Torah, you must kill him. You see, Yahuwah says that don't accept a prophet if his prophecies comes true. His message must agree with my Torah. Because they went forth for his name's sake, taking nothing from the Gentiles, we therefore ought to receive such that we may become fellow workers for the Torah. I write to the congregation, but Diotrephes, who loves to have the preeminence among them, does not receive us. Therefore, if I come, I will call to mind his deeds, which he does, prating against us with malicious words. The word prating here means talking nonsense, talking nonsense. So it actually says, he who does talking nonsense against us with malicious words. And not content with that, he himself does not receive the brethren, and forbids those who wish to, putting them out of the congregation. You see, this is one thing also Yahuwah hates, is when one person lords it over the other people. That's what it talks about in Revelation, where YAHUSHUA talks about the Nicolaitans, that he hates the doctrine of the Nicolaitans. And that word Nicolaitans, I think, means to lord it over the people. And that is what churches are all about today. Your pastor stands in front and he's your spiritual head, which is wrong. You can actually call it blasphemy. Because according to Scripture, 1 Corinthians 11, YAHUSHUA, our Messiah, is the only head and we are his body. He is our spiritual head, not another human being. And that Scripture says in 1 Corinthians 11, go read it, that if you place anyone else as your head, any human being, then you dishonor your head, which is YAHUSHUA. You dishonor YAHUSHUA as your head if you submit under another man, spiritually, as your spiritual leader. You see, we do recognize when someone has spiritual authority, and the Spirit will reveal to us that someone has spiritual authority, and we respect that person for that authority that rests on them. Of course we do. But we do not let them dictate to us spiritually everything how we should live. That's the work of the Spirit. The Spirit will tell us how we should live through Scripture. Not another human being. No one can tell you, I'm your spiritual leader now and you must do everything I tell you. That is wrong. They're not your head. Therefore, if I come, I will call to mind his deeds which he does. It's also important here in verse 10 that he says, I will recall his deeds, because deeds are important in Scripture. Faith without works is dead. Demetrius has a good testimony from all, and from the truth itself. And we also bear witness, and you know that our testimony is true. I had many things to write, but I do not wish to write to you with a pen and ink. But I hope to see you shortly, and we shall speak face to face. Peace to you. Our friends greet you. Greet the friends by name. We just want to repeat verse 11. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. He who does good is of Elohim, but he who does evil has not seen YAHUSHUA, Elohim. And good equates to the Torah. So that is the third epistle of Yohanan.